What's going on, Midnight Watchers, and welcome to the Midnight Paranormal Society show with your host, Mike Cardenas.
What's going on, Midnight Watchers? This is Mike Cardenas. Welcome to the Midnight Paranormal Society show. I'm here with Robert, aka Goggles, and we have a special guest this evening. We have Mr. Brandon Alvis from the hit TV show Ghost Hunters, which airs on A&E. Thank you, Mr. Brandon Alvis, for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure. Great talking to you.
Oh yeah, man. I've been waiting for I've been counting on the hours and the minutes and the seconds, and now we're finally here. So thank you for again joining us. So right now, for those who don't know who you are, man, kind of tell us who's Brandon Alvis, where from, where did you grow up, and just give an idea of who you are, please.
Yeah, I've been involved in the paranormal field since 2006, but my interest in the paranormal field, really started at a young age. In 1995, I lost my oldest brother to cancer, and in 2004, I lost another brother to suicide, and that kind of sent me on my journey into the unexplained, if you will. And I never really had an experience. I grew up in Bakersfield, California, never really had a
Okay.
paranormal experience per se. It was just more about having to learn about death and grow up very quickly at a young age. And I started to think, is there a possible existence of a life after death? So I started to look into that, and I started to read everything I can get my hands on associated with ghosts and hauntings. Anything from psychic phenomena to scientific investigation. And before I ever stepped foot in the field in 2006, I reached out to medical doctors, scientists, engineers, various professionals from technical industries that really helped me remain grounded in scientific principle. And I started an organization called American Paranormal Research Association in 2006 to go out and investigate historical locations throughout the United States from a scientific perspective. And all those years of research, I'm actually going on my 16th year of research now. All those years of research led me to be the paranormal technician of Ghost Hunters. So it's been pretty exciting.
Man, that's amazing journey, man. And let me ask you this question, man, because I think about it, man, and I saw when you did another interview with our network. Remember now you mentioned about your brother passing away to cancer, and he had a brother who died in suicide, which is horrible. And again, our condolences. Since those times, man, have you ever had an experience with your siblings, like where either they came to you in a dream, or even just any kind of paranormal experience regarding your siblings?
I never have had a paranormal experience with them per se, but I have had people that claim to be psychic over the years approach me and say things that they shouldn't know. That's always, I guess, like technically would be paranormal. So I guess that
Yeah,
would be a
yeah.
paranormal experience associated with it. But over the years, I've been in different states. One was in Arkansas. One
Okay.
was in California, and one was in the East Coast. Can't remember the exact state, but I've had different people approach me over the years and actually bring up my brothers, which they shouldn't know that. This is back in a time
Yeah.
where I didn't have any kind of, public profile when it came to paranormal investigating or anything like that. So that's the only, kind of experience I've had with their presence or knowing about them after their death.
Yeah. Oh
And
wow,
what will be your
interesting.
goal though? Like, if you did contact your brothers, what will be the main goal? From then all the way to now, all the work you did. Like, what would your main goal be for them?
I don't know if I really have a goal when it comes to contacting them per se. It's more about just looking into the possible existence of life after death. I've always been of the mind after all the years I've researched and read about this type of phenomena is I've always really leaned on Einstein's theory that energy is neither created nor destroyed,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, E equals MC square.
Yeah, right. And we are completely made up of energy. Our brains are firing off neurons, like, and we have energy all within ourselves right now. We're made up
Yeah.
of that. And the interesting thing is, when we die, where does that energy go? And my next question is, does it retain consciousness? So that's where I start to get into the idea of, ghosts and hauntings. Is that what we're dealing with? And that's where I started to really base my investigations and my research off of. And all the scientific consultants I worked with over the years, I've talked to them about that, and they've really helped me implement some great theories, scientific
Yeah.
principle, and some of that you're seeing in the new season of Ghost Hunters. So it's been pretty exciting.
Oh, nice. That's amazing, man. And
Mhm.
another question I have, man, is when you were a kid, when you first came into the paranormal, was there any like specific show that you liked the most out of all the ones that were out that you like kind of like you were like, I gotta watch this? Was there any paranormal shows that you liked the most?
Ghost Hunters. never, never in a million years thought I would be on Ghost Hunters at all. I actually have a pretty interesting picture from 2008 where I'm with Jason and Grant, which is
Oh
kind of
wow.
funny. Took a photo with them. I was in my 20s at that time, and took a photo with these guys, and I loved
Yeah.
the show. You know, I loved the paranormal before that. I researched it extensively. I've read every book I could get my hands on, and I saw this
Yeah.
on TV, and I was like, wow, other people really do this, you know, and this is
Yeah.
a really great example of how people actually do it. I think that, you
Yeah,
know, obviously
definitely.
Ghost Hunters started the entire phenomena of creating the thousands and thousands, if not millions, of paranormal investigators throughout the world that are out there today and conducting research. I thought they did a fantastic job of bringing that public awareness and that,
Oh yeah.
you know, that light to paranormal investigation. So, Ghost Hunters was it for me. You know, I watched the show and it made me feel, you know, more fulfilled. It made me feel like,
Yeah.
okay, all these books you've read, all these things you've been interested in all of the years, is there's a reason for it, and other people are out there actually doing it, and from a really
Oh yeah.
logical perspective. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no,
Sounds like a young
definitely. And
version
for
of me.
me, yeah, sorry, Robert. For me, when I was growing up, man, the one show I enjoyed it a lot, but since I was a kid, I was just terrified. Was and I don't know if you remember this show, but it was called Sightings back in the
Oh,
'90s, I believe it was.
I
absolutely,
remember
for
that.
Oh, dude,
sure.
that intro was like on point, bro. That when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I would hype for a second, and then once it was over, I'd be looking up like, let's do this, man. I love that show so much.
Well, funny enough,
And
talking about
yeah,
sightings, you know, Peter James, the famous psychic, you know,
yes,
the late Peter James,
yes.
he was famous on that show, and
Oh yeah,
he made the Queen Mary, RMS Queen Mary, famous because of that, and
yeah.
that was something I watched as well. I loved sightings. I mean, even Unsolved Mysteries did a lot
Oh,
on the
dude,
paranormal times,
yes,
you know. So
yes.
those are really great pieces of TV that talked about the paranormal, but you know, to see paranormal investigators actually out there doing it,
Yeah,
Ghost Hunters really set that apart. But I loved sightings; it was great, absolutely great.
Yeah.
yeah. All the shows, even the
Especially,
Travel Channel shows. From
oh
Halloween,
yeah,
they had those
and
specials.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. And one thing I love about sightings, man, was that the intro was like, we're talking about controversial, topics. That was just like to think that at one point, you couldn't really talk about this, and if you did, it was very controversial. That was it's so amazing to see how far we come in a little bit of time and how more open minded people are,
Yep,
because of that. So it's definitely
very well
cool.
said. Absolutely, very
Yeah.
well said.
Yeah, and so one thing that I can appreciate from you guys and the fact that how you guys have the new show Ghost Hunters is that one thing growing up watching the original OG team with Jason and Grant, they one thing I loved about them and I appreciated about them was that some shows, anytime you watch, they're always finding something. What Jason and Grant was they kept it real, excuse me, in the sense that they had shows where nothing was documented. You know what I mean? It was like,
Right.
hey, we didn't find anything. It is what it is, and people. To me, I truly appreciate that because I not every single case or not every single show you're not gonna find stuff. So
Yep.
I appreciated them doing that. So that's why one thing I loved about that show at the time, and now with your show now that you're on, one thing I appreciate even more now is that they brought this show, as far as they can bring it. And now you guys are carrying that torch now. That they handed the torch over to you guys, and you guys are trying to make even bigger breakthroughs. So if you can talk about the show now and kind of give us a little insight to maybe season one and some of season two, if you can.
Shout out to
Absolutely. You
Jason and
know,
Grant.
that's right. That's right. You know, they created a huge movement and they created a lot of awareness out in the field. So always, you know, kudos to Taps for sure. Absolutely. You know, but with the new reincarnation of Ghost Hunters and the way we're doing things is we've kind of stepped forward. You know, like the
Yeah,
reason you saw the way Ghost Hunters was initially with the original show is you very much saw the format of that show based off of the way Taps investigated locations. It was completely
yeah,
based off of their methodology, their protocol. So you see the walkthrough. They go in, they meet with the client, they talk with them, they hear about the eyewitness testimony. They come in, they set up their DVR system, which was a very readily available. Actually, not
oh
readily
yeah,
available technology at the time, but that was pretty cutting edge. You know what I mean? To
oh
go in there
yeah,
and be able to set up
definitely.
all those DVR cameras and whatnot. And the reason you saw the original Ghost Hunters play out the way it did was because that's how they investigated, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
what you see with the new version of Ghost Hunters is you see a new team that is not TAPS, but we're doing it kind of our own way now. We
Yeah.
very much follow the same ideas when it comes to going in and trying to find a natural explanation first, which should be
Yeah.
basic protocol for any investigative team out there, right? You want to go in and try and find a logical or natural explanation to what
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
perceive to be supernatural or paranormal phenomena.
Yeah.
But you see in season one of the episodes we did was called Suicide Hotel in Oakville,
Yeah.
Illinois, in the original Springs Hotel. We went to this place. There was so many suicides, so many. Almost
Oh,
every
wow.
owner of that place committed suicide there. And this big Victorian building was built on top of a mineral springs, which is really interesting from a paranormal theory standpoint within itself.
Yeah.
So we go in and we investigate this place, and we found high EMF. We
Oh
found
wow.
a ridiculous amount of natural infrasound, which does mess with people's perception, right? They go in, they
Yeah.
hear these preconceived notions about a place being haunted, but we
Yeah.
find these man-made natural explanations that messes with people's temporal lobes, and they call that temporal lobe activity, which is a
Yeah.
very natural explanation for people having what they claim to be paranormal or ghostly phenomena. And so we kind of disprove that place in a bit. Not to say that there's not paranormal activity there in some capacity, but during our time there, we not only did we not experience it, but we found some very natural explanations for it. Now, what's interesting about
Nice.
the new season, in season 2 of Ghost Hunters that you're watching now on Wednesdays at 9 on A&E, is the fact that you're starting to see a whole new change in the team. The first season, you saw a team that was very fresh, very put together, very new. And now you're seeing that evolution of that team, right? You're seeing
Yes.
how we're all meshing, we're all coming together. We all have our own ideas, we all have our own ways of investigating, but we have implemented our own protocol. We have implemented our own methodology, and I think that season 2 is giving a full, view of how we do things, as a new team.
That's amazing. So real quick, I'm gonna I'm gonna share one of the questions that the one of our viewers has. Let
Sure.
me see. Let me pull it up real quick. Right there. That's one of our investigators, Sydney.
Okay.
What was the
Yeah,
most wildest case you have ever been on?
yeah.
Fun.
I've been on a few, but over the years, when I was investigating with my organization, APRA, American Paranormal Research Association, there was, what we like to do is we would go investigate a location for years. We wouldn't just go there for a few nights and investigate and then
Yeah.
not go back. We would actually investigate some places for up to 5 years. And there's a
Oh
location
wow.
in Oakland, just outside of Oakland, California, in San Lorenzo, called the McConaughey Estate. And we've been investigating that place for over 10 years now. And
Oh wow.
I can't even begin to tell you all the type of things that we've done there. One of my scientific consultants that I've worked with for many years, he's part of APRA as well. His name's Dr. Harry Clore. He's
Okay.
one of the only people in history to receive 2 PhDs simultaneously in any
Yeah.
discipline, and he received those in physics and chemistry. So the guy's kind of like a living historical figure, if you will. And
Wow.
we've
That's
taken
good.
him there for many investigations, and he even was walking out of that place going, I have no idea what the hell's going on in there, which is really interesting.
Wow.
So that's a really wild case. But again, in this new season of Ghost Hunters, everyone, if anyone watched it, no spoilers. But last week we did Fort Stanton, which is a location that has so much history, everything from the Apache Wars to the Civil War, Lincoln County War, and then the fight against tuberculosis, where this was a location that was kind of ground zero for fighting against tuberculosis, such an isolated place that it was the
Oh yeah.
first federal tuberculosis hospital. And we
Wow.
went in there, and I was given a very sensitive piece of scientific equipment, and we had some amazing results. And we're making tremendous
Wow.
breakthroughs. And that's my biggest thing, man. Coming on here and talking with you guys, it's always a great pleasure to talk with people that
Oh yeah.
investigate in the paranormal field,
Oh
such as
yeah.
yourselves, because I want to do what I can to push this field forward. I want to do what I can
Exactly.
to step out of the shadow of pseudoscience and really, you know, see what we can do, see what we can really do.
Oh yeah. Definitely
Have it
make a
become part of
difference. Yeah,
regular
man.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Robert. Absolutely.
People go to
So
college to get careers in this.
Oh
That's the
yeah.
end goal for me.
So let me
Absolutely.
show you here. We have another question here from Kim. I don't know if you can see the question there.
Have I ever experienced an elemental? Absolutely, Kim. I have. Yeah, I have. And that's one thing I've been doing over a number of years as well is that, over 16 years I've been researching now. Again, that's another thing I always like to say is there's absolutely no experts in this field, as we know, like Mike and Robert knows, there's no
Yeah.
experts out there. This is a ever evolving field. It's hopefully a field one day that will be taken seriously when it comes to the scientific aspect. But I've been trying to do my best to really categorize the different types of phenomena, right?
Yeah.
Categorize these different types of entities. Like if you go to a zoo, you don't go to a zoo and say I saw a bunch of animals, right? You go to
Yeah.
a
No.
zoo, say I saw tigers and monkeys and
Yeah.
lions and whatever it may be, whatever.
Saw a
Yeah.
human.
Yeah, exactly. And you go to those places, you don't say that. You know what I mean? Like you say that you encountered these very specific species. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
that's going to be a huge step forward within this field is going that extra length to talk about
Yeah.
the phenomena, how that phenomena exists, the mechanics behind it. But elementals, not only have I encountered them at locations I did previously before Ghost Hunters, but this last episode we did at Fort Stanton last week, they were talking about this dog-like creature that not only has been talked about by the local Native American tribe, but has also been seen many times by people frequenting the fort. And I think that's very much would be considered an elemental. Absolutely.
I think
And
that
actually,
was
I know Robert. I know Robert wants to kind of add to that. So go ahead, Robert.
yeah. Well, I want to first. I am Apache descendant too, so I
Oh,
know what you're
really?
talking about. Yeah, and I
That's
think it's a
great.
cryptid because it. I know they have like rituals. I don't know what ritual they did, like
Mm-hmm.
the actual ritual they used to protect the buildings that they used to keep it away. But I believe it's a cryptid because I experienced like a lot of like I don't when it comes to ghosts. Like 50-50 when it comes to experience, but with cryptids and monsters, like as I've been doing that since I was 14 years old. But
That's your
with my
expertise. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, with my heritage, I learned like all the legends, folklore, and it seems more like a cryptid than a spirit to me, at least. But if
Yeah,
it's an
for
elemental,
sure.
I'm curious what kind it would be, though.
Sure, absolutely. And I like that was the number one thing even Grant was talking about during that whole situation. He was
Yeah.
like, the first thing you should look at is it being a real animal. And I think that
Yeah.
that would fall in
I
line with the
actually do
cryptid
agree with
side.
Grant, though, because when I was out there, when I went monster hunting, like I've been attacked by wild dogs before. Like three wild dogs attacked me once, and like I know like it's more common than you think to encounter that kind of stuff.
Not scary. That's scary. That's pretty damn scary right there.
You're
I'm used to it
investigating,
already.
man. A big old pit bull comes out and attacks you. That'd be crazy.
Yeah,
Like the
not fun.
coyotes, Mike.
Oh man, okay. So check it out. There's a place here in town, right? Because like any city, there's urban legends, right? There's local urban legends and stuff. Well, here, and I don't know if you heard about this one. It's called the Donkey Lady Bridge, right? A real
No.
quick, real fast rundown, right? And it's all urban legend, but and there's different variations of the story, but the main of it is a woman. She lived on a farm with her family in a part of San Antonio in the south side, and it's all fields and stuff. And so apparently this land developer came into town and he wanted to buy up all the properties from individuals there, and this one family refused to sell their property. And so he at the time he sent his henchmen to come threaten them and scare them away, and they refused to leave. And so apparently what ended up happening was one day they were out there and these men came and started stoning the family with rocks. And one of the animals or one of their animals on the farm, I guess, one day attacked one of the land developer's son or something and bit him. And so he's like, you know what, to get payback, we're burning these people's houses down. We don't care. We're gonna burn them down and just kill them, right? So they went back. They ended up burning the house. The family died. The only one who kind of survived was the woman, and she became disfigured. And they said that she appeared to look like a donkey or something. So whenever you go with it, that the story is you go and that you hear this woman screaming, and when she comes running at you, it's supposedly this woman who's like a donkey, so they call it Donkey Lady Bridge.
Yeah,
And
you go at
so
midnight and honk the horn, and she attacks their car.
yes, that's
Oh,
what the story
geez.
is. We've been there so many times, and what ended up happening, it ended up being a place where, and I don't want to get too much into it, but people, when they would kill people, they would dump their bodies there, so it became like a dumping
Jeez.
ground.
Wow.
So we were there one evening, and we're doing investigating, and what we do is every now and then we'll have public investigations where we'll find a local public place and invite our viewers to come meet us. Well, we were there, and the team kind of went off into the woods, and I'm staying there. I'm like, if something goes down, man, I'm not gonna be stuck in the woods. So I'm near the
I was
bridge
one of
that
the
goes
ones
to
in
the
the woods.
vehicle, and I hear these coyotes in the distance running towards us, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not about to be lunch or dinner for a coyote. And I told the team on the walk, I'm like, let's go, coyotes are coming. And the thing is, the way they were coming was about to like run into us and block the bridge so we couldn't get to our vehicles. I was like, nope, I'm done. Let's go. It's not safe. So yeah. But let
That's why
me
he
get
had
another
me. But they
question
were
here.
chasing a deer. We found that
Yeah, they're
out.
chasing the
Oh,
deer.
okay,
But that's what Mike has me. I know
there
how
you
to handle
go.
myself, brother.
That's right. This guy's got
Here's
it
another
down.
question from Trisha. I don't know if you can see the question.
Favorite piece of equipment to use during investigation? Why? I would have to say, Trisha, the newest piece of equipment that we've implemented on the new season of Ghost Hunters, it's an electron multiplying camera, and that's something that we've been using. I think we're the first to ever actually use it in the field and actually use it to try and capture paranormal activity. That was actually, given to me by a scientific consultant of mine, a good friend of mine, who's an engineer, and over the years, for many years, I've been talking to various scientists and about, from their perspective, if ghosts are real and if ghosts
Uh-oh.
exist, how are they going to manifest, right? So I would ask
Yeah.
that, and they said, well, I think it would possibly be through photon events, and photon events are
Yeah.
light events. And another interesting, just a side bit of information, that these photon events do carry electromagnetic radiation, which is very
Oh
interesting. But
wow.
so I took that theory, I ran with it, and I got this camera sent out to me, and we utilized it in this new season of Ghost Hunters, and we are making tremendous breakthroughs with utilizing not only the theory that these entities are manifesting through photons, but we are actually collecting some amazing, amazing evidence that not only
Uh-oh.
we can't explain, but our scientific consultants can't explain either. So it's been really great. It's been a lot of fun.
Science is leveling the playing field
Okay, so we have
bit by bit.
Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely. We have another question here. Let me put on the thing. It says here, Brendan, my husband Matthew Mezzo wants to ask: is there a certain place you've always wanted to go investigate but haven't had the chance yet?
Absolutely, Tower of London. I would love to do the Tower of
Oh
London.
man,
Yeah, that would be unreal. I mean, that place was built for death, really. So I hate to put it that way, but I
wow.
mean, if we're thinking about life after death, and we're thinking about what a lot of people perceive to be traumatic events associated with hauntings. I think that would be a place to really check out, and I think it would be a
This is
really
actually a
great
replica of the
observation.
executioner's axe from
There
there
you go.
that they used to
Yeah,
behead people.
exactly. Yep, exactly. There you go. That's a great talking point with that for sure. I would love to go
Yeah.
there. I think it would be fantastic. That would be a huge moment, I think, for paranormal research in general to go check
Oh
that out.
yeah. And what's a place before you were on the show, and even as you're just with your team investigating, what's one place that was like a bucket list investigation you wanted to go to, and when you finally went, what was the experience?
Ooh, I probably have to say Alcatraz. I was
Oh
lucky enough.
man.
Yeah, I spent the night on Alcatraz on September 11th in 2009. I was
Oh.
there with Mark and Debbie Constantino,
Oh
friends of mine
man.
for many
Yeah.
years. Yeah, friends of mine for many years. I got a call from Mark and Debbie in 2009. They said, "Hey, you want to go to
Yeah.
Alcatraz?" I said, "Shit, of course,
Yeah, man.
absolutely, I
You're
want
like,
to go
let's
to
do this.
Alcatraz."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I was
That's
lucky enough.
that's that's awesome.
Yeah, I went out there, but not much happened. I had a few strange occurrences, but it's not what I,
Yeah.
thought it would be. But again, I was only there one night, so it's
Yeah.
tough.
That that
One
that's
night's
that's the
never enough.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. There's so many places you hear about, man, and you get so hyped for it, and then you go, and then nothing happens. Like, here in town, in San Antonio, there's a local place called the Institute of Texan Culture, and this place is all about, they have artifacts from Native American stuff. I mean, just so many different things there, and I heard so many stories about how haunted it is, and so my team and I were the third team to get in there. I investigated, and it was for 5 nights back to back, and
Wow.
like nothing happened. I mean, it was like, I was like, man, but the thing is, it happens, it's not a
Hmm.
guarantee that you're going to have an experience. You can go all these nights and nothing happens. And then some team just shows up randomly and then boom, they get all the activity. So
Luck of the draw, man. That's how it
yeah,
goes,
Paranormal
like
man.
you just
lottery.
said. Yep, exactly. No, you're right, Robert. 100%. It's a right place at the right time thing,
Oh
and
yeah.
also a big part of it too. I mean, in the 16 years I've been doing this, one thing I've noticed is, and not to say no one's doing, not to say that anyone's doing it wrong, but I think that the
Yeah.
energy that you put out is the
Oh
energy that
yeah.
you receive in a lot of ways. So I think it's right place at the right time, going in and kind of putting out those really pure intentions to make sure you kind of get what you're looking for, if that makes sense.
Your buddy's on here.
Oh, that guy! I never heard of him before. Who the hell is that? Daryl, man, what's up, dude?
What's up,
Love
Daryl?
Daryl Marston
So,
is one of my favorite people.
Oh
Got a
yeah.
friend of my Facebook.
So we got Judy on here real quick, and let me see. I don't know if you can see that.
Skinwalker Ranch. I would love to, Judy.
That's actually
Oh,
my
man.
bucket
gosh,
list.
I would love to go to
I
Skinwalker
want to go
Ranch.
against that indestructible wolf. I think I can
Yeah,
take
right.
it.
You know, some say the
Dude.
dire wolf too, which is interesting. But I would love to go to Skinwalker. You know, I've heard about it so
Same.
many years. I've read about it for so
Yeah.
many years. I've actually been watching this new History Channel show, and
Yeah, you
it's
told me
been
that in your live
great.
stream last time.
Yeah, it's been
I was
great.
going to mention that Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, it's
in
pretty
your
cool. I've liked it. I've liked it. You know, it's interesting. You know, it's clearly a spin-off of Ancient Aliens, which is cool. You know,
Mhm.
everyone likes Ancient Aliens. I don't care who you are.
Oh yeah.
Someone's gonna get into
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yes.
it's interesting. But I mean, for anyone to get that kind of you know, access to Skinwalker is a great thing, and that's how you got to do it. Is if you go in there and give a true scientific study like that, you really you
Yeah.
know, plant yourself in a location for an extended period of time. I think that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely, man. We have another one right here. Let's see. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it or not.
Is there an opinion that you've had about paranormal phenomena that changed a certain experience? It's tough because it's ever evolving. You know, one thing with me, you know, I've always called myself kind of a natural skeptic. You know, and I've always been in a position where I've struggled with my belief. There's times where I don't believe it at all, and there's times where I'm like, I have an experience that makes me go, okay, this shit's real. You know, this is really happening. But it's tough for me. You know, it's a ever evolving situation for me, and I think that's what keeps me going is not having one particular belief over the other because I have to remain unbiased. I have to go into these locations not with a preconceived notion. I have to go there
Yeah.
and say, hey, look, I want to try and find the answers, and I want to try and find the
Yeah.
truth and provide the best information possible.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And so, how big are you on documentaries? You like watching documentaries?
Oh yeah, I make them myself. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
filmmaker,
man.
so
Yeah,
I
There
definitely.
you
love
go.
And
it.
yeah, talk about that, man. You know, what got you into filming stuff, and you know what you know why you had that passion for that kind of stuff.
Well, funny enough, you know, I was in the music industry for many years. I've been a musician for a long time, and that was always kind of my creative outlet. And everyone's got some form of creative outlet, right? Everyone's got a way
Yeah.
to kind of get that information out there that they have within their own brain, right? You have to get it out
Yeah.
somehow. And I was always a musician, and I used to work at a place called the Buck Owens Crystal Palace in Bakersfield,
Okay.
California, for many years. And one day, the video guy didn't show up, and
Oh
they said,
wow.
"Hey, you're in charge of video." I was like, "I've never even touched a camera in my life. I don't know what I'm gonna do." And I kind of just jumped in, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I always
Wow.
was a huge history buff. I was always about telling stories that people have never heard about, telling not only talking about legends and folklore, but talking about factual history. And I just really jumped into video, and I think documentary filmmaking was the perfect medium to get out there and really show some of these stories people have never heard of. A lot of
Yeah.
history out there in this country alone that people have never heard of, and I jumped into that full force, and I created not only a documentary series called Ephemera, where it was nominated for 4 awards, but I
Oh
also
wow.
created a feature-length documentary called Cemetery Park,
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about some of the legal activities in Ventura, California, where they illegally demolished a 7-acre pioneer cemetery. And I made that film, and it was accepted into one of the top 5 film festivals in the country. And
Wow.
just something I've always done. You know, I love it. I love telling those stories. I love bringing information to the public. It's great.
So before I get off, I don't want to get off subject, but Dan, he sent this right here. Let's see if you can see this.
EVP, yeah, EVP field processor. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great, Dan. Awesome, man. Like that's a device that was created by the organization. Larry O'Dean was our engineer on that back in, that was years ago. I mean, wow, that had to be in 08, 09, I think is when that device was created by Larry O'Dean, one of our engineers.
Yeah.
And that device was featured on Ghost Hunters. It was on Ghost Hunters International. It was on
Wow.
Destination Truth. It was on all the shows at that time.
That's
Ghost
amazing.
Adventures. It was on all of them. And that device did pretty well. It was cool. That was a really, really great device.
Yeah.
It kind of showed real-time EVP, which is cool. It didn't change the way your device records EVP, but it gave you real-time monitoring capability, not only audibly but visually, where you would see it in real time, which was really cool.
Yeah, we gotta use that for
So
live
if
streams.
oh yeah, so if you were able to create a device that has not been created for the paranormal field, what would it be and how would it work? If you can think that off the top of your head.
Ooh, that's tough. I'm not really much for going out and creating devices specifically for the paranormal field. I think we're very much should be adapting scientific equipment from the scientific community to use
Yeah,
within paranormal investigation to really not only further our field, but to find factual data and
yeah,
empirical evidence. So I'm a
yeah.
big proponent of
There
that.
you go.
And you see with this electron multiplying camera, that's a great example of it, where
Oh
we're
man,
taking
yeah,
something
definitely.
Yeah,
that's
that's
used
fun.
by another scientific field and we're putting it out there and we're getting some amazing results, and not only results that visually people are seeing and it's helping the eyewitnesses that actually seen it, but it's also giving us an edge to say, hey, look, I think we have a very scientific explanation that's helping us
Yeah,
understand how these entities are manifesting.
yeah. No, that's amazing, man. And so and I'll let Robert ask questions here in just a moment, but uh, and
Take
this is just
time.
something I've always thought about that what I've been wanting to ask. So, in your opinion, what is the biggest misconception about those who investigate on TV? In your opinion?
That we're always investigating in the dark. You know, that's a huge thing. Is every time people watch these shows, they think that they see the night vision. That's where you're doing all your work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But as you guys are paranormal investigators, Robert and
yeah,
Mike. You know what you're doing. Like you do a lot more work during the day than you do at night, right?
I was
yeah,
You're
actually thinking that
researching. Yeah,
yeah.
you're
Definitely, man.
when I
researching,
was a kid,
talking to
I saw that
eyewitnesses.
on
Yeah,
TV. I thought like, why are they always doing the night vision? Is that just because it looks cool?
right. Well, again, I think the biggest reason for doing it at night is not only because you're cutting down on contamination as much as possible, but
Yeah,
we want to control our environment as much as possible as well. You're not going to go and investigate an active business or an active household during the day because there's going to be a tremendous amounts of traffic,
oh
people in
yeah,
the building at that time. So at night, it's your best opportunity to really get, a really controlled environment. I think that, people see that and they think, oh, they're trying to do it to be spooky, but no, that's not the only reason.
Yeah.
But we're also doing a lot of work during the day, just as you guys do. So you know that.
so it's what Brad said. I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah, some of the most amazing evidence captured during the day. Like, absolutely,
Exactly.
absolutely. A paranormal phenomena doesn't happen just at night. But again,
Oh
I
yeah,
think
no,
that
definitely.
And
the best opportunity you have is to go at night to really cut down on contamination.
Oh yeah,
actually, I have a theory I want to pass by you, Brandon. I always had this idea that maybe ghosts can feed off the energy of the sun, and that's why like most of these sightings come out at night. Like a lot of the big stuff happens during the daytime.
Sure. No, that's great. I think that kind of goes in with the idea of the photon events, right? You're thinking of
yeah,
these photon events. You can look up a really great interview that Joe Rogan did with Dr. Penrose. He's an amazing mathematician and scientist that really talked about amazing, amazing talk about how photons work and how they work within the universe. And what he said within that talk very much goes with the footage we've been capturing with this electron multiplying camera, which is
yeah,
designed yet again to capture photon events. So I think that we're really onto something, a huge breakthrough in this field. You can go out and capture EVPs. You can go out and capture strange things on infrared. You can capture photos. You can capture thermal images. But when you start to break things down on a scientific level to say, hey, here's a
yeah,
very particular matter associated with these manifestations, that's where we start to move this field forward. That's where we start to look
yeah,
at things from a very logical perspective, and that's exciting.
Yeah, it's like Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest answer is often the right one.
Yep, exactly. And sometimes people use Occam's razor in a way that's not the right way, but you're
I know.
100% right. The
I know
simplest
yeah,
many
answer
yeah,
people
is the
are.
right one. And sometimes I think we have to slow down and look at it from a perspective of we know how certain things within this universe work. Why would these paranormal events not be working in that manner? And I think
Exactly.
that's a perfect, analogy. Like you just said, Robert, I think it's a really great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Let's not step outside of our thinking and be like, well, it's something we don't understand. Why can't we understand it? Why
Yeah.
can't
yeah,
we?
Analyze each
Why
step before you take one.
exactly? And I think that we have to kind of slow down sometimes, allow that scientific perspective into our field, and really utilize that. Sometimes people look at science in this field as the big bad wolf that's going to come out and disprove all the things
Yeah.
you believe. That's not the case in any way, shape, or form. You have to look at it from the perspective that science is going to aid what we're
It'll
trying to
help
do.
prove it.
Aid, exactly. And
Yeah.
if we, I mean, they said Isaac Newton was crazy when he was talking about gravity. They said he was nuts. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? When Nikola Tesla, can you imagine the things they said about Nikola Tesla?
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah,
let's just think
definitely.
about that. You know what I mean? What they said was out of the ordinary and sometimes considered paranormal. You talk about Thomas Edison. He very much
Yeah.
believed in ghosts. He created a device to try and communicate with ghosts. So
Exactly. Yeah.
these people aren't just your run-of-the-mill paranormal investigators. These are very brilliant scientific minds that believed in this type of phenomena. And Nikola Tesla talked about a lot. Einstein, he even talked about the ghost particle a lot, which you can look
Oh
Oh
into.
yeah.
So
wow.
I can go down the rabbit hole with all this stuff all day,
It's
but
okay to do
I
that.
love it. I love it,
Here's
man.
another
This is really
question
cool.
from one of our viewers, Judy.
Ever worked with a psychic? Absolutely. Absolutely, Judy. I've worked with many psychics over the years. I am not closed off to any type of research in any way, shape, or form. There is not an expert in this field. There is not one person that is right over the other. Now, going further with that, Judy, we can go back to the photon events and talking about this electron multiplying camera, right? So there's people out there that are psychic, claim to be psychic, that say they see entities. They say they see ghosts, right?
Yeah.
Now, with photons and us recording these photon events, which very much coincide with these eyewitness testimonies in these locations, there are very few people out there that have extra proteins in their eyes that can see photon events in real time
Oh
with their own
wow.
eyes. So
Yeah, I heard about
now,
that.
are we seeing a trend that these people that are psychic or claim to be psychic, are they seeing photon events with their own eyes? And is that the correlation? Is that where we start to see that scientific explanation in some way? So absolutely, Judy. I've worked with psychics over the years. I've been part of it. I think that as the further we go with scientific explanation, scientific principle, I
Hmm.
think we'll have more answers.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
as science advances, it'll raise questions, but then it'll give us a chance to answer those questions too.
Absolutely.
And so, have you ever been to a historically haunted place that people knew about for many years, and been able to go into that place and debunk it, and come out that it really wasn't haunted? Have you been to a place like that before?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we did that in the first season of Ghost Hunters with the Suicide Hotel, the Oakville, Illinois location, the
Yeah.
original Springs. Not to say that there's not activity taking place there. I can't say that. I can just say that
Yeah.
during our experience, we found a lot of natural explanations for what may be going on there, especially with the staff on a daily basis, where they very much talked about these sensations and these feelings that they were having that very
Yeah.
much were, symptoms of high EMF, symptoms of natural infrasound. But again, you never know. You never know. I start to go into the theory that maybe this high EMF and maybe these natural infrasounds are amplifying activity. You never know. That you have
Hmm.
to. We have to look into it further. We have to study it, and we have to try and find real answers. So you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
No,
there's a
definitely,
ghost
man.
there, they'll probably blame it on the infrasound.
Right. Exactly. So it's tough. It's a tough situation, but you never know. Like, is there? I actually, we were talking about the McConaughey Estate earlier, right? This place outside
Hmm.
of Oakland that we've been
Yeah.
investigating for a number of years. That we went in there with Dr. Harry Clore and we pumped natural infrasound into this place because Dr.
Yeah.
Clore thought maybe that the infrasound that was natural in there was the cause for the paranormal events, and we pumped in our own infrasound. We filled the place with it, and things happened we couldn't explain. So, was it the infrasound that we pumped in amplifying the
Yeah.
paranormal activity? Who knows? We'd have to look into it further.
That's what we did, Mike.
So
Actually, remember?
yeah, and I was
So,
thinking about that. She was saying that. Yeah. Tell them about the video you played, Robert, that so you can understand what
oh,
you're talking about.
well, I found this video on YouTube. It does infrasound for like 12 hours straight, nonstop, on YouTube, and we did it in secret originally, just to see how the team would react.
Perfect.
I placed it like in secret, but one of our sensitives, she felt it instantly, and she felt something weird. And she went straight back to my phone and saw. She said, like, "What is this? What is this app that
Yep,
she's making feel weird?"
that's
I'm
great.
not a
So that's
scientist, so
yeah,
I don't
no,
know how
that's
to
awesome.
explain that.
That's the type of stuff. Like it's a blind experiment, right? With
Hmm.
someone that's sensitive. So not only do you have that where they feel sensations, they're empathic in that way. And if they're picking up on
Yeah.
that frequency, that says a lot. That's
Hmm.
interesting stuff right there. Like not many people would feel it. Not the percentage of people that actually feel infrasound is not high. So if someone is claims to be psychic and they have that experience, that's awesome, guys. That's good
Yeah.
work.
No,
Very
that's
good work.
definitely. Here we got another question real quick from George.
George.
What are your thoughts on mimics? Like, does he mean by as far as like entities mimicking people and whatnot? Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I've ran into that on multiple occasions. I don't know. It's a tough one. You know, is it just a intelligent type of entity that's in a location just trying to have some fun, or is it like or is it doppelganger type of
oh man, yeah,
phenomena, stuff
I
like
encountered
that?
a mimic.
Yeah, it's tough. There's all kinds of you can go in a lot of different directions with that. You know what I mean? Like especially the doppelganger stuff, which is really trippy phenomena, really
Mm-hmm.
trippy. So in Europe they believe that was like kind of a precursor,
Omen of death.
bad omen for death. Yeah, exactly. So it's tough. Different belief systems, different places. So
yeah.
who knows? Who knows?
We're gonna take one more question here from Randy. Let me see. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, so many people question equipment that are used, such as a K2 or REM pod. Is your opinion thoughts? I would not utilize the K2 or REM pod because I think that they're too easily affected by natural, natural or man-made, frequencies. So the K2, I mean, a cell phone will set that off like nothing, nothing. Same with the REM pod.
Yeah,
High EMF, natural man-made EMF, even natural EMF will set these things off. So they're not shielded very well. They're not trusted in that
yeah,
regard. So it's not going to give you factual data or empirical evidence. So there's other devices out there that are fantastic for those purposes that you can buy that are same price, that are made by manufacturers that aren't for paranormal research, that really give you real results, and you can go back to that
yeah,
manufacturer and say, hey, look, I'm having these anomalies, and they can give you a realistic explanation to it. So we try and stay away from what we call garage tech, and we also stay away
yeah,
from anything that's built for the paranormal field. It kind of gives
yeah.
what I think is a placebo effect.
Especially the price they slap onto those bad boys. they
It's crazy,
charge an
man.
arm and a leg, man, a house payment.
Yeah, I know.
So
It's crazy.
here's one from my mom. She says, "Have you ever seen a ghost that scared the hell out of you and you couldn't finish your EVP session?"
I've never seen one like that in real time. I've seen some things I can't explain, but nothing that ever scared me. I've seen things that was recorded on video that made me really question what I was seeing and really, scratch my head on some of these things. But never had that experience, not yet at least. So we'll see.
Okay, here's one from Dan again.
ITC devices, not really much of them or any of them really. I think that if you want to get into ITC, I mean, there's different forms of ITC. There's a lot of different ones. You know what I mean? Even you can go to ITC where you talk about the Schreiber method and things of that nature, where Schreiber, would take a camera and do a playback loop where he was going through the monitor, the TV, and just looping back and forth, and would what he
Yeah,
claimed to receive, entities and facial features and whatnot. So there's all types of kind of ITC out there, but one thing I will say with this new season of Ghost Hunters, you will see us resurrect a very old experiment from the paranormal field that goes back
ah,
decades and decades and decades. I'm a ghost geek. I love the
Fun.
research. I've read all about it.
wow.
Instrumental transcommunication, ITC,
Okay,
is something that's always interested me. I have books on
yeah,
ITC. Instrumental transcommunication is something I've looked
yes,
into for many years. What ITC has turned into now is kind of not what ITC was originally, and it's kind of sad that it's become what it has.
yeah,
But you will see that I've utilized a very specific schematic from
yeah,
something that changed the paranormal field a long time ago, and I recreated that schematic with modern technology in a very amazing location, and we had tremendous results. So the people out there that always
oh
say that
man,
Ghost Hunters isn't into ITC or says things about ITC, you're going to see something really exciting this season. So
dude, we're so excited for that.
Take
And
that.
and how about we? And I don't want to get too many spoilers. I know it's probably someone who hasn't seen the episode yet, episode 2.
mhm.
But I mean, they're gonna see it. There's they can go to YouTube or wherever
I
they
think
can
it's
go
on
see it.
demand
But
already.
yeah, it's on demand. So
Yeah.
what about that shadow apparition or that shadow message y'all saw on camera? Tell us about that. What went through your mind, just that whole moment when you saw that, leading up to what was it like in your mind going through that moment?
Absolutely, Mike. This is where it gets really interesting. This is something that wasn't mentioned in the show. We filmed it, but again, as we
Yeah.
talked about earlier, I think off air we talked about this. Is that there are so many things that go on. We're at a location for a week when we shoot these
Yes.
episodes. You're only seeing 42 to 45 minutes worth of a show, right? We're there
Yeah.
for a significant period of time. We're doing so
Yeah.
many other things that don't make the show, including with my scientific consultants I've been working with for a number of years, anytime we capture something that we think we should take to the client, I am always
Yeah.
personally sending that to these consultants and getting their opinion on it, because this is something
Yeah.
I've done for many years. And this footage that you see from Fort Stanton in that
Yeah.
tuberculosis hospital hallway was again captured on the electron multiplying camera. And when I showed that to my scientific consultant, multiple of them, they said
Yeah.
that what makes this even more interesting is the fact that this camera is designed to record photon events, right? Which are
Yeah.
light events. You saw what Brian looked like on camera. You saw there was very
Yes.
much a definition. This footage that we collected shows a complete absence of light, which means that
Wow.
this matter, whatever it is absorbing that space around it, which
Wow.
makes it even more interesting. So it makes it even more,
Yeah.
that much more
In the shape of
unexplainable
a
is the
human.
fact that, yeah, exactly. So
Silhouette.
not only is there this different matter absorbing the environment around it to create this absence of light, but it's
Yeah.
in the shape of what looks like a human profile. And not only that, it's coming
Exactly.
out of a locked doorway, which is even
I
more
know
crazy.
that
So
was insane, man. That was when I saw that I was like, because even when it came up, it almost looked like, I mean, 'cause you can't see no features of anything, but you know the way it kind of moved, it almost like it kind of went out, and like if it was almost like looking at y'all and kind of like, oops, it kind of went back. You
yep.
know,
And that's what's even
that
more
was
interesting, Mike, is the craziest part is like initially when Brian and I were in there and I am looking at the monitor, I see this light in that window, right? And not only you
yes,
see the
yes,
light, but you see a shadow walk from right to left. I
yeah,
was literally looking down at the monitor and seeing that in real time, looking up, looking out that window, there was nothing there.
nothing.
So our first reaction was we got to get out there and try and disprove that. So you see Brian go out there with our
Yeah,
cameraman. It was only Brian, myself, the cameraman. That's it. That was it. No one else in the building. And our thought is maybe it was infrared light, right? Which we know
okay,
infrared light doesn't show up on the electron multiplying camera like it
yeah,
does on an infrared camera. So
yeah,
those two walk out, and we're trying to recreate that by our cameraman blasting infrared light, flashing a flashlight, trying to get the same, to mimic the exact footage that we
yeah.
collected. So I am in there by myself when
Wow.
this phenomenon takes place. But I'll tell you this: I didn't see it in real time. I didn't see it with my own eyes. But
Yeah.
I can tell you this right now: I felt like, without a shadow of a doubt, there was someone in there with me. You know that feeling.
Wow.
And not
Yes.
only do you know
Yes.
that feeling when someone's in there with you, you know the feeling when someone's watching you. So
Exactly.
my theory is that that initial footage you see of that light coming out of nowhere, that shadow walking from right to left, I think that that entity entered our space or entered that building at that moment. Brian and the cameraman exit the building. I think that that entity, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
thought we left, and it peeked its head
Yeah.
out,
That's
and
yeah.
it noticed I was standing there,
And
and
that
it
the
was like,
surprise kind of like, oops, and it kind of backed up.
and you can almost see it turns and leaves. Like, it's really
Yeah.
interesting the way it plays out. So I think that there's a very specific series of events that take place within that sequence that I think we were just again, going back to it, the right place, the right
The
time.
right time.
And I
Yeah.
think that we got very lucky, and I think that we utilized the right piece of equipment, and now we're starting to make big breakthroughs, and I'm super excited about it, man. Super
Wow.
excited.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's amazing. And kind of getting back to documentaries, man. There was one that I saw, and again, whenever I watch these, I kind of, I look at it, and I'm like, okay, I give the benefit of the doubt. But the one that I saw, and there was some controversy to it, in a way, was
Sure.
have you ever seen Sir No Face?
I have not seen. I've heard of it. I've heard of Chad's work. I
Yeah.
have not. I have not seen it. I have not seen it.
Yeah, that's one you gotta check out, and again, I mean, the evidence that he collect, or not he collected, but the team collected, that he was showcasing on the documentary. When I saw that, I don't know what to think about it, man, because
Sure.
anytime you see something, it's like you had to been there to experience it. You can only give so much advice or your opinion on seeing just from that clip or from a photo, but it's like you had to been there to understand, or but again, I saw it and I was like, okay, if it's legit, amazing. If it isn't, then damn, that was some good edit, but
Sure.
you gotta check it out sometime.
I
I thought
will.
it was
Absolutely.
pretty
I'll check
cool.
it out. I've heard of it. I've heard of the documentary. Absolutely. I know Chad's been doing work for many years, and he's done a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. he used to work with Ryan Buell and all that stuff. I'm
Yeah.
familiar with their work, so I'll have to check that out. So that's again the beauty of this electron multiplying camera that we're working with now, right? Is that everyone always wants to try and think of, in the paranormal field at least, the
Yeah.
infrared spectrum, the
Yeah.
full spectrum cameras that are out there, which a majority of them aren't truly full spectrum at all, especially the ones that are are modified and whatnot. Then you also have thermal imaging. But this electron multiplying camera is out there to very much record a very specific particular matter. And that's why
Yeah.
when you see the footage we captured with this new season, not only did you see last week and the first episode at Clifton, but it takes it to a scientific level. It's not just infrared. You can go in and put filters on it, but there are scientists out there that know how this camera works, know what it does, and they can really break that down even further. So I'm excited about it. Can't say enough.
That's definitely amazing. And so, are there any other piece of equipment like this camera that you're using that are that same level as it that can potentially make breakthroughs the way this one is?
Absolutely. There's stuff that, I've been working on for many years that some of which are not going to be in this new season of Ghost Hunters. But again, I will say anytime that we're in there using the data logger, right? The data logger is very important because if we want to, step forward in this field and step out of the shadow of pseudoscience, we have to be recording all of our environmental conditions at all times. Not only for the fact that we have to know exactly what the conditions are coming in and seen from the natural standpoint, but if there are manifestations and if there are paranormal phenomena taking place, we want to know what those environmental condition changes are. So you have this device that records humidity, temperature, pressure, EMF, vibration, and you're recording all of that onto an SD card and looking at graphs. That's important. And now you'll see as the season goes with Ghost Hunters, this new season, we're utilizing this electron multiplying camera with the data logger, where we're trying to see if there's a correlation between trying to capture these photon events and environmental changes. And that's the correlation of devices. And that's really taking it to that next step in the scientific aspect, is having correlating evidence, having empirical evidence, correlating your devices and trying to pinpoint that to a time code. That's very, very important.
And so, what about the whole thought about going to an investigation and making sure, like, I mean, do you ever go through any kind of precautions or procedures that nothing follows you home?
Sure. Yeah. Over the years I've been doing this, I've had instances where I've been followed home, and I have my own, belief system on how I make sure that doesn't happen. I think everyone on the team has their own way of doing it, has their own belief system and how to go about it. So there's not like some kind of moment where we all get together and do that. So we all have our own individual beliefs and we kind of follow that ourselves. But yeah, man, I've been followed home in the past, so I make sure I cover my bases. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, man. Here in town, there's a place called Pat O'Brien's Bar, and that place here in town, it's known to be haunted by some children. And for me personally and for my team, we had this thing where before we do any investigation, we pray before the investigation. We cleanse ourselves and stuff. That way nothing follows us home, and that's our own thing that we do. But for this specific case, I was rushed, and I'm a very punctual person when it comes to my investigations, and so I was rushed. I mean, everything was going bad that day. I went to the investigation. I mean, everything just felt like we were like speeding through everything, and I was in a bad mood. And we ended early. I went home, and then at the time when I was living with my ex, she woke up and she heard something in the living room. I went to go check it out, and I didn't see anything, but I left the camera rolling, and some stuff was happening. Well, I did, and one thing I tell, whether it's our viewers, whether it's our clients, even my own team, I always recommend or suggest you never investigate your own home, because you don't want to, for things to start happening in your own house. You don't become the victim. And so I did EVP session just to kind of see, maybe something follow me. When I did the EVP session, I asked what the name of whatever was there was, what was the name, and it said Patrick. It was a little kid, and I was like, oh my god, this thing followed me from Pat O'Brien's Bar. And before I could do a cleansing, I mean, on its own, it just took off. But it's a very real thing, and it really can happen. Things can follow you home.
Yep, absolutely, 100% right. And never investigate your own home. Not recommended.
Oh, dude, no. And what do you think about people who have like these haunted collections? Like, like for example, we mentioned earlier, Zach Bagans, how he has a haunted museum. I know it's not in his home, but what do you think about people who have these collections and they have them in their actual houses? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that a majority of those items are questionable, in my
Yeah,
opinion. It's going to be tough to have that many haunted items, and I know that John Zaffis and the Warrens for a number of years had things sent to them. They didn't go
yeah,
try and acquire it. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of a different
yeah,
story.
yeah,
But I think if people are going out to seek and try and find haunted items, I think a majority of those are not going to have any form of phenomena associated with them. But again, if you want to
yeah.
bring that into your own home, then to each their own. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
But I think a majority of the time, it's just not going to be credible, in my opinion.
yeah, definitely. And so, what should we be expecting for this next episodes for the rest of the season? What should we be expecting coming up?
Some spoilers.
Yeah, I can give you a bit. It's the big thing about this season is the isolated locations, right? The season
Yeah,
is called Alone and Afraid, and it's called that because there's so many people out there that live in these very desolate, isolated
Rural
yeah,
areas.
locations. Some of these places are 100 miles from the nearest hospital. I mean, completely in the middle of nowhere. Some of these places took us 16 hours to get to. So I think the one thing that really struck a chord with me in this whole situation was there was a client that said, if you guys don't come out here to help us, no one else will. So,
wow,
so you're going to see a lot of new locations, never before
yeah,
investigated locations, but some amazing evidence. I know in the first two episodes, people have seen some unbelievable stuff that's been captured on
yeah,
new scientific equipment, but it keeps to build and build and build. But you're also going to find some very natural explanations to some of the
yeah.
things going on in these locations, which is always something we do. But you're going to see some really intense places. Next week is an episode called.
Oh, your sound went away. Your sound. We can't hear you, Robert. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yeah, I can hear you. Brendan, your sound went
Can you see
away.
me? We can't hear you no more. We can't hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
I can't hear you at all. Yeah, I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, I'm trying to mimic, like, talk with my lips so he knows what I'm saying.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can the viewers hear him still?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Yeah, see, he can hear us, but we can't hear him at all. You know what? Oh man, it's this would happen. No, I'm not sure what happened. You were talking perfectly and the sound just went away. You know what we can do if you can hear me, I'll exit your camera off and just join me right back into the link I sent you, okay? So let me do that real quick.
Science to the rescue.
Okay, hopefully he can join back in.
Yeah, he should. Come on, miracle. To the audience watching, fingers crossed we get this fixed soon. Sorry, tongue-tied.
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
There we
Yes, you're
go.
back. There you go.
We're
It worked.
I was like,
Science
you're
saved the
talking,
day.
and then it just went silent. I was like, oh no, what happened?
We're back. Yeah, no, just picking up where I left off, with this location, it's, a bunch of kids go there during the summer as a summer camp, and nothing better than to go out there and try and help, kids that are frightened by going to the summer camp. And we find some amazing, amazing evidence and help a lot of clients that were desperately in need. So I think everyone's really going to enjoy that. And then you'll be seeing some pretty cool locations. I'll be able to say this, that you'll see us returning back to Waverly Hills as well.
Oh,
Which is
Beautiful.
always a big
that's
draw.
my dream investigation, bro. Oh my god.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the only location. I think that is the only location that people will know about on this new season. All the rest are never before been investigated. So I think that it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot
It'll
of
be a
fun.
treat for everyone.
Quick story about Waverly Hills, man. We were visiting family in Ohio, and on the way back, my girlfriend and I and her mom were driving, and I see it says we're in Kentucky, and I'm like, when will I ever come back to this part of the world? I'm never gonna probably come back for a long time. So I said,
Right.
can we stop real fast in Louisville? She's like, for what? I'm like, can we just please stop it? Who knows when we're gonna come back?
Yeah.
We stopped, and I went to one of the entrances of Waverly Hills, and it said it was closed. And I called the number that was there. I'm like, what's the closest point that I can see the building at least to take a photo? She's like, go to the other entrance near the golf course. And I'm like, I'm not from here. I'm not sure where that's at. She's like, just follow the road around. And I kept passing it up, and finally I see the golf course, and I go, and you know how the road kind of splits off to the side.
Oh yeah, very familiar.
And I get there, and you see all the security cameras and the security booth, and I'm at the fence, and I'm looking up, and the trees are so high, all you see is like a small corner of the roof of the building. I'm like, oh my god, I'm here. So that's the closest I've been, man. I was so heartbroken that it was closed, but at least I can say that I was at the fence looking at the building.
Absolutely. I will say this about the Waverly Hills episode that's going to be really great is the fact that we go in there, and it's been investigated so many times, made famous by ghost hunters initially, right?
Yeah.
We go in there, and I think that we kind of crack the case a little bit, where we kind of figure out exactly what's going on there and the intentions behind it, at least what it's become today. Because as you know, with a lot of these places, which become, I think, what I call para-tourist attractions, right?
Yeah.
That there's so many people, thousands of people coming through there, that I think that there's an intention behind the entities that are there, and I think you're going to see that, which is very interesting. It's a great episode, and I can't wait for everyone to see it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So here's a question. Here's a question that I would like to ask you, man. If you can go back to the moment that you first got into the field, of the current you today, and going to your past you when you first got into the field, what would you tell yourself?
Stay the course, man. Stay the course. Stick to scientific principle. No matter what people say to you, no matter what people say about your research, don't stop. Keep going, because it's going to hopefully one day better the field. Hopefully bring awareness, education, and the proper methodology and protocol. I would have to say that, because it gets tough out there sometimes, man. It's, there's always been a great analogy that I myself and Matt Goldman, one of my investigators with APRA in my organization, talk about, is the paranormal is like the Wild West. Everyone's trying to stake a claim, and they want to keep that claim no matter the cost. They don't want to be told they're wrong. They don't want to give that up. And it's not a malicious thing with us. We don't want to tell people they're wrong, but we want to do the right thing. We want to move this field forward. There's no experts, but there is information that can really help us go forward. And that's the big thing. Scientific principle is really going to help us, and let's move it forward, and let's do the right thing.
Oh yeah, that's amazing, man. And where can people, for those who don't know who you are, because surprisingly, I mean, I've asked around. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna have Brandon Alvis on the show, and they're like, who? And I was like, wait, what? And so for those who don't know you, how can they find you to get more information on you? Where can they look you up and all that good stuff? Your social media platforms.
Yeah, you can find me at brandonjalvis.com. That has all my social media on there. It has all my work with not only the paranormal and other things I do, but all handles. Brandon Alvis with Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. It's all there. But again, as you know, Mike, and I know Robert, first time meeting Robert here, it was great talking to you. But I am always a huge proponent of moving this field forward, especially from the scientific perspective. And I just want to do what we can. I want to work with everybody. I want to hear all the theories. I want to do what we can to make sure we are doing the right thing in this field. And I'm always looking forward to talking with people. Yeah,
and real quick, do you have any pet peeves in the field? Like, when you're investigating, do you have things that you're just like, oh my God? And I'm not saying what people bring to you, but like for me, let me give an example. When I investigate, my biggest thing is I tell people, okay, we're gonna start investigating. Everyone be mindful and don't whisper. At least don't whisper like, hey, what are you gonna do tomorrow? How was work? Like when we're investigating, it's like it's work mode. So what's one of your biggest pet peeves in the field when you're investigating?
It's tough because it depends on what you're doing in the investigation. You know what I mean? If you're doing EVP sessions, there's a very proper way to conduct that. But, I've always been, like I talked about earlier, I think that the energy that you put out is the energy that you receive. So say, for instance, you're going into someone's private home, or you're investigating a tuberculosis hospital where many people died. I think having that mild manner and that talking in a lower tone, you don't want to just walk into a place and claim ownership over it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Walking in and demanding that you have some kind of response to your questions and what you're trying to do. I think that talking lower and whispering and being kind of calm in that manner is never a bad thing. If you're doing EVP, you always tag what you're doing, obviously, and
definitely
of that. But I think that's the biggest thing is I think the energy that you put out is the energy that you receive, and always be respectful, always be mindful, always think about it as If what we're dealing with is human spirits, these are people that
Yeah.
are deceased and once lived. They should have that respect, and I think that energy you put out is the energy that you receive.
Talk to them like they're
Yeah,
still alive,
definitely.
like you would anyone on the street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to get
Yeah,
assaulted and
that's
yelled
big.
at my house.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, and that's one thing that I love about you guys is you guys are very professional as far as, your manners and how you approach it. Like Robert just said, and you said yourself, if someone will walk up to you and just start yelling in your face, you can be like, hey, wait a second, back up. So when you go to the field, just be respectful, like you're talking to anybody else on the street. When you go in there, have the utmost respect, even if the experience is not so great and you're feeling kind of bad, or you're feeling you're scared. Just always be respectful, because
Yep.
this is not a physical thing that you can control. So just
Yep.
be very mindful of when you're investigating.
Absolutely. Another thing too with EVP, if you're doing the proper research and you're using recording devices that have the highest bit rate possible, recording those WAV
Yeah.
files, you can
Yeah.
have that tested with spectrum analysis. So if someone even is whispering in a location, you will be able to see that through a spectrum analysis, where you
Yeah.
can see if it's a stray radio frequency, stray cell phone
Oh
frequency,
yeah.
where it's coming from, and you'll know. But the really interesting part is if you are getting EVP, which always has a very disembodied quality to it, nature to it,
Yeah.
you can see that it does sound like human speech, but is not showing up or registering the same frequencies as human speech. So that's always something to think about as well.
Definitely, man.
What do you call
Well,
it, the effect, pareidolia effect?
Pareidolia,
Audio?
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I
Absolutely.
was
Yeah.
thinking of. Like that.
yeah, and actually talking about pareidolia, not so long ago we were invited to a YouTube show where the individuals, they're from a group called MUFON, and they're the
Mhm.
chapter is MUFON San Antonio.
Sure.
Well, one of the gentlemen who was interviewing us, he said, hey, I want to show you a picture real fast of someone who submitted a photo to us. Can you check it out? I said, of course. I'm always wanting to give my opinion. And it was a picture of someone snapping shots of their fire going off in their fireplace, and
Sure.
for whatever reason they're just taking pictures, and they're like, do you see the faces in the pictures? And I said, look, if you want my 100% honest opinion, I'm going to give it to you. It may not be what you want to hear, but I'm going to give it to you in the most utmost respect. I'm going to give it to you respectfully. I said, I know that you're seeing faces. I said, but do you know what pareidolia is? Maybe matrixing, where you think
Yep.
you're seeing something that's not really there. And they just blew up on me like, I've been doing investigating since 1988. And I'm like, okay.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I'm like, well, if
Actually-
anyone should know, it's you. You have more experience, but people, they want to hear what they want to hear. And at that point, I kind of bow out. I'm like, I gave you my input, and that's all I can do.
It actually happened when I was seeing the new episode, when you heard that lady in the laundress.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard, like, I know a subtitle was about to come on because Grant was about to say what he heard, but then I kind of muted my TV real quick, and I couldn't read his lips, but then I just kept replaying the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard actually wrote it down. Hold on. Yeah, I heard so many here, and
Sure.
he said he heard something a little different, but like I knew if I read those subtitles, I'm gonna think that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
start
in
listening
your
to
head.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're tainted at that point. It's the thing. Like, that's why whenever, like, unless it's a crazy class AVP, which you'll hear some on the
Yeah.
new season, it's always open to interpretation. But that's the beauty, is that we always
Yeah,
look at it
definitely.
from the spectrum analysis standpoint. We know it's not one of us, and we can tell it's not a stray radio
Yeah.
frequency or cell phone frequency, which we could even go into that further about radio frequency if you want. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one last question, man. It's on my
Yeah.
end, and if Robert has one, I'll let him ask it. But have you ever been to an investigation where you've caught an EVP and it sounded exactly like your voice, or maybe someone who was investigating with you?
Like mimicking, like similar to that.
Yeah.
It's happened in the past, but it was so similar to the people someone
Yeah.
at the investigation, I threw it out. I had to get rid of
Yeah,
it because it's
yeah.
just too similar. So it's tough, but I know that's a known phenomena, and that
Yeah.
phenomena does happen. So it's so tough, though. It's so tough, especially if you want to provide that to the client. It's a really
Yeah,
hard
yeah, definitely.
concept to wrap your mind around. So
You, Robert, you have any more questions, man?
No, I got the big ones out already. Now it's just
Okay.
casual talk.
Well, man, we definitely appreciate you coming on the show, Brandon. I could be here. I could talk for days, man, about the paranormal and about all this good stuff.
We all could.
Yeah, one day I would love for you to come back onto the show, man. Maybe for the next season.
Sure.
but
Just come
we
back for
definitely
fun.
appreciate you. And I know our viewers, we call them midnight watchers. We make it more personal for our viewers.
Awesome.
I know our midnight watchers, they're excited. They're in the comments. They're just going crazy. So we definitely appreciate that, man. And we look forward to having you again. And yeah, man, y'all gonna need to come. I'm praying that one day you guys can come down to San Antonio, man, and just hit up a good spot. Don't go to the ghost tracks, because when Zach came, he was like, what's a haunted place you can go check out? And they're like, go to the ghost tracks. I'm like, that's not haunted. So I mean, I wish,
The
I
Gravity
pray that one day
Hills.
you guys come down
Sure.
and just
Natural
check out
phenomenon.
a great spot, man, that y'all can come investigate. That would be beautiful, man.
Absolutely. If we do, I'll let you know, man. Absolutely.
Oh,
You know,
dude, I can, man. I have so many connections here where I can get you some good spots, man, and you can check them out.
Awesome.
But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful night, man, and you stay safe in that and during this crazy pandemic, man. I hope you and your family are safe, bro.
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure talking with
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys. I always love talking theory and talking the paranormal, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
All right, brother. Well, this thing,
All right,
once I
guys.
end it, it might throw you out. So you have a good
Yeah.
night, brother. Take
All right,
it
guys.
easy, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, midnight watchers. Bye bye. Boom.